My name is Mark Millon, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber. Sidearm whip, scores! Now in front, Penn scores! Hands off for Rabel, switches hands and scores!
Kylie O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson.
Mark Millon with a left-hander, and he scores. The all-time leading point scorer in the MLL.
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam. Together we're bringing you interviews with your favorite players and coaches, as well as news from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. Welcome to another episode of Pro Lacrosse Talk. I'm Hutton, he's Adam, and today we're joined by lacrosse great and former pro Mark Millon. Mark's resume includes his 4-year career at UMass, as well as being a member of Team USA for the 1994 and 1998 World Championships. He also had lengthy careers in the NLL and the MLL, winning professional championships in both leagues. Mark, welcome to the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to kind of talk your whole career, starting where you grew up in Huntington, New York. So we'll start there first. Obviously, Long Island is one of the largest hotbeds for lacrosse. Tell us, when did you first get involved in the game of lacrosse? When did you first, get a stick in your hand?
Yeah, so, you look at Long Island, and right now it's, for the last 20 years or so, it's more great players come out of Long Island, I think, than anywhere. It's probably just a fact. I reside in Baltimore now, and a lot of good guys coming out of Baltimore, Philly, upstate New York, New England, but Long Island is kind of the leader still. When I was growing up, it wasn't, just because I was growing up in the late 70s, early 80s, it wasn't quite as much of a hotbed. There just wasn't as many kids playing, obviously. I have kind of a funny story I've told before, and I hope it doesn't get too tiring, but I was playing baseball, and I was really, really into baseball. And I was playing on all the Williamsport teams. I was playing on a team. We were probably like 5 games away from the Little League World Series. Mm-hmm. But my dad was a high school teacher at Syosset, which is, has really, even back then, was kind of more of a hotbed than Huntington. And he came home one day and he said, hey, John Pappas, who's the lacrosse coach here, said that I should get you guys lacrosse sticks. You should play some lacrosse for me and my brother. So me and my brother were like, yeah, we see a lot of lacrosse in the neighborhood. So we weren't playing on any real teams, but a lot of the boys in our neighborhood, we had a big neighborhood, and they were all running around with lacrosse sticks. And so we got a little bit exposed to it. We thought it was fun to mess around with the sticks. Mm-hmm. So we said, sure, Dad, bring us home a stick. And he ends up bringing us home 2 long poles. And we only saw short sticks in our neighborhood. We really hadn't watched lacrosse on TV yet or anything, so we didn't know anything about what the hell a long pole was. So we went in the garage, and my brother took the lead and just grabbed a hacksaw and just cut it right in half. My dad walked in and was like, oh, my God, what are you guys doing? And he was like, we lived on a pretty modest income growing up. Both my parents were teachers. My mom wasn't even teaching at the time, and so he was pretty rattled. And but that's the start we got. That was, that's kind of where we started in our neighborhood. And then we liked it enough. We went to a lacrosse camp called Portledge Lacrosse Camp, which was in I think it was in Port Washington area. And some of the USA guys were there, like Brendan Schneck, just some kind of superstars in the game at the time. So that was the start. Me and my brother kind of fell in love there, and then, played a little bit more baseball after that, and then went all in on lax.
That's awesome. And obviously, after your time in Huntington, you headed to UMass, where you played for legendary coach Dick Garber. And you've mentioned in past interviews that guys like Sal Acasio, Tim Sudan, who we actually just had on the show last week, really drew you to UMass. Talk me through your decision to head up there and play for UMass. Yeah,
so I was getting recruited. One regret I have, I have 2 young sons now, a 15 and a 13-year-old, and I tell them that, academics are so important, and I explain how many more doors open up if you're a good lacrosse player. And unfortunately, I had, not the greatest grades, not terrible, but some of my doors were closed. I kind of originally wanted to go to Carolina. My high school buddy and teammate, Bill Day, who ended up going to North Carolina, we kind of wanted to go there together. And I went on a recruiting trip. I'll never forget being in Coach Simmons' car. He picked me up at the airport. I went to Syracuse. And so I was really kind of looking at a lot of schools. And then I went to UMass on my recruiting trip, and I just fell in love. I just fell in love. It's a really intimate, kind of cool campus, and the city, in the town of Amherst. is really cool. The culture on the lacrosse team at that time I thought was incredible. And, you know, the location of the playing field right in the center of campus, it's now called Garber Field. Just kind of the whole thing, the whole mojo just made me fall in love. And then Dick Garber was, you know, he just was a legend. And all the alumni that went there and played for him to this day kind of, you know, refer to him as a father figure. He died in probably like 94 or so. But he was an incredible guy, and then the culture on the team was great, and the area was really cool, and, you know. And then the kind of final piece for me was I did the research and looked at the guys and looked at the guys that were coming back and where the team had been to the playoffs in the last couple of years, and I really felt that we had a chance to do some really special things. And I just thought it was going to be really cool to go to a school that had never been to a Final Four rather than go to a school that goes to every Final Four, like a Q. So I was probably closest to going to Syracuse. And, you know, so that was really, you know, kind of all in. That's what made me choose UMass.
No, that's awesome. And you had a terrific career there. And then, you know, following UMass, you played for Team USA in 94, you know, fresh out of college. And then in 98 as well, winning world championships in both. And your first time making the team, you were one of the youngest members of the team at age 23. And you were named MVP of the games. Talk us through making that team. You know, how difficult was it? You know, I think there was around 120, you know, players trying out. And how special was it to make that team and represent your country?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. How special was it? Because anytime people ask me about what was your most special lacrosse experience, they expect it to be, you know, one of the championships or I won or some kind of, you know, personal accolade. But growing up, one of the things as I started to fall in love with lacrosse, you know, after putting down the baseball glove and stuff, I had a Team USA poster on my wall. And so that kind of became my goal. And all through high school and college, I just wanted to play for Team USA so bad. There was no pro league, and, you know, that was the pinnacle of the sport. And in some ways, I think guys still look at it that way today. And so when I went fresh out of college, I was playing really good lacrosse at the time, and I'll just never forget getting the phone call that I made the team, and it was really to this day the most special moment I've ever had. And making it a second time was obviously great too. That carried a special circumstance because the games were in the United States, but it was an incredible experience being able to wear the red, white, and blue, and it was really cool to be one of the younger players on the team. And some of the leaders were Steve Mitchell, who played at Hopkins, and John DiTomaso, and Vinny Sombrato, and Petro. And so to be one of the younger guys on the team, Mike Marl, whose son played at Yale, Jackson, it was really just an incredible experience. The games in 1994 were in Manchester, England, so that carried kind of a unique thing. A lot of us hadn't traveled overseas or to Europe, to the UK, and it was just really an incredible experience. One of the best I've ever had in the game.
That's fantastic. And, you know, yeah, you didn't stop playing there kind of around that same time when you suited up for Team USA. You found yourself in the box game a little bit. You had a really lengthy indoor career and are considered one of the best Americans to ever suit up indoor. How did you get introduced to the box game? Obviously, it's a lot different than the outdoor game, and pretty hard-hitting comparison at that time when it was the MILL. So talk us through your introduction to the indoor game.
So first of all, I growing up in the Long Island area, the Saints were up there, and I'm pretty sure, like when I was in high school, well, I know the Saints were not playing out of the Nassau Coliseum; they were playing out of the Brendan Byrne Arena in New Jersey. So, like junior or senior year, me and my buddies drove over and watched the Saints play at Brendan Byrne, and that was really the only pro league going at the time, and I knew that I wanted to do something, you know, in the business side of lacrosse, but I also knew that I was, you know, I loved the sport and I was playing pretty well. So it was a no-brainer being exposed to that league. And I said, you know, I really want to do this. I want to play some pro lacrosse. So it was great. It was a great experience. You know, the guys who play today usually grow up with at least some exposure. Like if you're a guy coming out of college now, I mean, some of the guys play it religiously, but I would say everybody has played at least some. but for me, my first time inside the boards was like with all the pro guys. So it definitely was a learning experience, and I had to really become a student of the game. I consulted with the best guys. I talked to Gary Gate a bunch about scoring and just kind of immersed myself in the game and tried to understand. I wanted to understand it better.
That's awesome, and yeah, obviously we're able to do that. And I actually just got finished watching that 2001 championship where you helped lead the Wings over the Toronto Rock in the NLL Cup. You had 3 goals in that one. Talk us through that game a little bit. I know it's a little bit in the past now, but you had 3 goals, and that was one of the bigger upsets in NLL Cup history.
Oh my gosh! So you've done a lot of research on this. That's great. I mean, seriously, great job. I mean, that game was, it gives me goosebumps because that game, when I said my greatest overall experience was being named to Team USA, I mean, that game is definitely top 5. For me, it was probably one of the best games I'd ever played, not because I had 6 goals and 5 assists, but just, did a bunch of stuff to help the team. And that was important because that was the ultimate team effort. I mean, we went into Toronto that night, and, I don't know, there was probably no odds in Vegas, but we probably had to be – Toronto had won the last 2 championships. It was in their building. There was 19,000 people. We probably would have been 6-8 goal underdogs. And every single guy on our team did their job, whether it was a face-off guy, a defensive guy, Dallas in the goal, Tommy Marichak, Jake Berge, Jay Jalbert was on that team. Everybody did their job, and, we shocked the world. I mean, we really did. We won 9-7.
Yep.
And it was just an unbelievable game. But I can't believe you took the time to watch that. That's cool.
Yeah, that was a great one. And so I'm originally from Philly, so I remember watching that. I was like 9 years old at the time, so I remember vividly that game on TV. And they showed it on Comcast Sportsnet, and it was the Toronto Rock feed from Comcast. So the announcers of that game are such homers for Toronto, and they were stunned the whole time, especially when you guys took that big lead early.
Stunned. That was just cool. Everything top to bottom. When we returned to Philly, it's, really probably the most I've ever felt like a big-time pro athlete. When we flew back to Philly that morning, there was, I don't know the numbers. There was a couple hundred people there, though, to greet us, and it was really special. That was a really special game.
That's awesome.
No, that's great, and you had a great career in the NLL, and you had a solid career in the MLL as well, but that didn't really come around until 2001. So leading up to that, you played for the United States Club Lacrosse Association. Tell us a little bit about that and how it was kind of a precursor to pro field lacrosse.
Yeah, so when you were a college graduate and you were back then in the late 80s and 90s, a small percentage of guys did go on and play, professional indoor box. But there was such a strong appetite. We all know that lacrosse is like the ultimate life sport, so when you graduate, you don't stop playing. So all the elite players played in the USCLA, which was the U.S. Club Lacrosse Association. And, over time, now we think of club in a little bit lower regard because club is so synonymous with little kids and young kids playing. And then also there's college club. So I wish it had a different name in hindsight, but this was pro lacrosse. And it was the best of the best. And the championships, I tell people all the time, my first year out of college was the 94 U.S. Club Lacrosse Championship. And I was playing for Long Island Lacrosse Club at the time. And we had Matt Panetta and the Sombrados and Dito, and Sal Locascio was our goalie. And it was just the who's who. And then the other team, Mount Washington, had Todd Curry and Rob Scheck and Petro. And so me and Petro matched up in that game. And so it was the real deal. It was basically pro lacrosse without fancy social media and, fancy uniforms and big, legit venues. But it was as legit as pro lacrosse is today.
Speaking of the next iteration of pro lacrosse was Major League Lacrosse starting in 2001. So you played with the Bayhawks for a majority of your career and got that first championship under your belt in 2003. What was it like winning that first outdoor title?
Yeah, that was special. And if I backtrack just a little bit,
Sure, absolutely.
It was really special in 2000. You know, most people that follow lacrosse know the summer showcase, and that's when you know every top guy played. We played in 6 cities, and you know, we really felt like we were pioneers. I mean, we were getting paid, and it was field lacrosse, and we were playing in really good venues. In Columbus, we played where the Columbus Crew. I don't know if they're still called the Columbus Crew, but
they are.
And so that was really special. Obviously, the further your career goes on, the more you want to win championships. So we played in the first championship. I just put on my Instagram last week. The first championship was, I think, the 01 championship, and we ended up losing. I blew my ankle out horrifically in the semifinal game. But then to go out and come back and beat the same team we had lost to, the Lizards, and it was great. It was special. It was a real special time. I mean, there was a lot of really good lacrosse, really great players, really good camaraderie with all the guys. So it was a special time.
That's awesome. Yeah, speaking of 2003, I think I burned through 2 or 3 of those 2003 Warrior Exposure DVDs. That was like, I had that on loop in my parents' house for over and over again, between you and Greg Catrano and Jesse Hubbard and those videos. That's kind of what I grew up on. So I went through a lot of those.
Yeah, that was really well done. That was a Jalbert production, I think. Jay Jalbert's group company produced that back at the time, and you know, lacrosse hadn't seen stuff like that yet, and it was innovative and just really good footage and really compelling stuff. So,
yeah, but so after your stint with the Bayhawks, you went on to play for the Cannons, then the Bayhawks and the Lizards again, and stepped away in 2007 as the league's all-time leading scorer. However, you did make a comeback in 2013 with the Rattlers. What really provoked you to make that jump back to the pros again?
Basically, and then the year I played with the Cannons was pretty amazing. That was a very special year too. We had an incredible team. I won't even get into some of the details. That season kind of stalled on us a little bit. We finished 10-2, and the Bayhawks finished 10-2. We were hoping to match up with them in the finals, but we ended up playing the Lizards in our second to last regular season game and our last regular season game, and in the first round of the playoffs. And we ended up beating them the last 2 games, and then they beat us in the finals. Anytime you're playing a great team like they had, Greg Catrano in the goal, and I mean, they were loaded. And so that was, but the Cannons year was really fun. As far as coming back, I feel like, you know, one of the things that I always struggled with was that my camp business I was running my camp business all summer. So I was on the field, you know, every summer for those 8 years after school or whatever, and in the hot sun running camps with 300-400 kids, and then I'd have to go out and play a game later in the day or later in the weekend. And I was just kind of burnt out. I probably wasn't like fully ready to walk away in 2007.
Sure.
But I had my first son in 2004, and he was 3, and I was just a little tired and a little burnt out. And I just said, you know, I have a little bit of an itch, and I know I can still play. It didn't work out quite the storybook that I was hoping for. I got in unbelievable shape. As a matter of fact, my first week of training camp, Kevin Lavelle, who I had played with the Cannons, was like, dude, you're literally not moving any different than you did, you know, a few years ago. And the problem was I convinced myself that I could play a little bit different style. And because I just didn't think I could sustain the speed with my body holding up. And once push came to shove and I'd get on the field, I tried to play my regular style, and I just couldn't, my muscles just couldn't sustain it. So I had like a really high hamstring injury that didn't heal. So it just didn't work out, but, you know, I went all in on it, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, no, but it was, you know, still amazing career, you know, in the MLL. And you mentioned a little bit too, you know, the Millon Lacrosse Camps. Let's switch gears and kind of talk about that a little bit. You know, when did you start Millon Lacrosse Camps, and what kind of got you into coaching the next generation of lacrosse players?
Yeah, so this summer coming up, I'm not really sure with all that's going on. I'm not sure that we're going to get a chance to operate. We'll have to see what goes on, but this will be my 26th summer running camps, and I started my first summer out of college. Me and my brother put this together, and I knew that when I graduated, most lacrosse players kind of have two distinct career paths that they go towards, and one of them, obviously there's some other branches, right? Some guys get into medicine and stuff, but you either go into the coaching field or you go into another field like business or medicine or something like that. And I just knew how much I loved lacrosse, and I didn't necessarily at the time want to be a college lacrosse coach. So I kind of married in the fact that I wanted to teach lacrosse and I wanted to be around lacrosse a lot, and then also the opportunity to run a business. So that's when I started it, and I'm really proud of where it is. People ask me all the time, like, what are you most proud of with your career? And honestly, playing is great. You get a certain amount of time to do it. But I'm definitely most proud of the impact I've had off the field with young kids. And, I've had actually over close to 30,000 boys attend my camps.
Great.
And then many more where I went to other people's events or just went to clinics and stuff. So we've been doing it for quite a while, and I'm really proud of all we've done.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I was never able to attend a camp, but, we mentioned your videos with Warrior, and, I want to talk about the Offensive Wizardry videos too. That was kind of my first exposure because my dad and my uncles both played. They were from Baltimore, but I was living in Michigan at the time when I first started playing in 4th grade. And, other than my dad, I didn't really have any other form of instruction. So you were kind of my second form of instruction, with those videos. And you recently just put them up on YouTube now for everybody to see. So what kind of provoked you to, put them up on YouTube, especially during this time where everyone's kind of inside, and it's kind of a great time to kind of have that digital instruction?
Yeah, so first of all, this wizardry thing, has literally transcended anything I could have ever imagined it was going to do. When I did it in 2001, my goal was to kind of let people know that I have a brand other than just being a player. And, people knew I was doing camps and stuff, but I thought it was important visually to say, hey, look, here, I do a pretty decent job. I know how to teach the game. Let me put this on video. And it was a way of branding. And to this day, we never really made a lot of money on that product because we spent so much. The guy I did it with, a guy out of DC, it cost so much money to produce it, and you could see the way it's produced back then, it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So it cost like 50, 60 grand to produce it. I don't know if we ever even made our money back, but it's just, it's like a kind of just like you guys have said you watched it, I cannot tell you how many people over time have said that that's something they used. Just this past February, I was down at the University of Maryland, and one of their top players, who I never would have expected this late in 2020, said he watched it growing up. So, and then why I put it on YouTube, I just felt like it was, it was the right time. I in my tweet, I said I just didn't have the time and energy to get it all fully digitized and put it on and done chapter by chapter. But I thought with what's going on in the country, I just thought it was a good time to just throw it up there in total and, let kids have a chance to, still enjoy it.
No, absolutely. I mean, like I said, that was kind of, that was my exposure too, in Michigan. It was, I remember my dad said, hey, we're signed you up for lacrosse. And I'm like, okay, I've seen you play a little bit, but what else? And then so he gave me that video, and I was able to watch that and kind of learn. And again, it was supplemental, and that was a kid living in Michigan at the time. Eventually moved to Virginia, which had a little bit bigger lacrosse presence. But yeah, no, I think it, like you said, it kind of transcended what you probably ever expected with it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I just think it was a little bit of the perfect storm in that there was an appetite for stuff like that, and there wasn't a lot of well produced. There was some videos, but most of them were not well produced. It was well produced, and then I think at least some people knew who I was, and then there was an appetite for instruction. So it just blew up, and it's really cool. Even just the other day when I put it up, a lot of people had some really, really cool comments back to me, just saying that this meant a lot to them. So it brought them back to their childhood and all that stuff. So very, very proud of that piece.
That's great. And you talked about a current player in the college ranks that said, watch that video. Another player that you've come to be pretty close with is Penn State's Grant Ament, who attended your camps as a younger player. Tell us about your relationship with him, and how has that grown over the year, and how excited are you to see him to play at the next level?
Yeah, so it started with Grant in a bunch of years ago. I don't know. I mean, I could do the math. I think he was like 7th or 8th grade, but he came to my Pennsylvania location of my camp 2 or 3 times, and he was just a really engaging young man. So, there was 150, 175 kids there, but he was so engaging. He was so passionate about lacrosse, and he was quite a good little player too. So I think all the coaches were all drawn to him. And so we sort of developed a relationship over coming to camp for a couple of years, and then that kind of evolved into doing a little bit of individual private work with him. His dad would drive him down here to Baltimore from Philly, and then he attended my Project 9 event that I do with Paul Rabel. So he came to that like 2 or 3 years, and then the relationship, that's a bunch of touch points now. I mean, he came to my camps, he came to Project 9, he came to do some lessons. And then what also continued to grow the relationship was as my boys got older, he kind of got more involved and invested in those guys as well. So it's been fun to watch his career. He's definitely, I think it's so hard to quantify at this stage who the best of this is or the best of that, but I would say definitely one of the best college attackmen ever to play, for sure.
No, absolutely, and it's a shame, his season got cut short, but, we're looking forward to watching him in the pros this coming summer, hopefully, if, everything goes well. If not, definitely in the future. But that brings us to the question, what are your thoughts on the current pro lacrosse landscape? The NLL is thriving. You have 2 competing men's fields leagues. What is your kind of perspective on pro lacrosse right now?
Well, I mean, the easiest one to answer is the NLL. They're doing a great job. It's a great product. They do a nice job kind of on all fronts. They treat the players well. I assume their attendance does pretty well. And they're so well branded. So I think big things for the NLL as we move into the future. The outdoor leagues are it's a tough call for me because I have very close relationships, and I want to see. I think the PLL is doing an incredible job. The content they're creating, the on-field is amazing. The events are great. I'm very close with a lot of the people. And then, there's obviously a soft spot in my heart for the MLL. And, back in the day, I didn't get too into the whole deal, but back in the day, because I was working at Warrior, and Warrior was a big contributor in getting that league going, I was on an advisory board in the beginning. So, honestly, it kind of breaks my heart to see the 2 leagues competing. I would love to see one, and I would love to see one league and have to figure out a way for them to all work together. But there's such a dynamic over time that makes it complicated, and not really rooting for one over the other, but have pretty strong relationships with both of them.
That makes sense. And like here at Pro Lacrosse Talk, we cover all 4 leagues because, again, there's great players in all of those leagues. And we're just excited, that there's more lacrosse now on TV and at our exposure. It is, a complicated time with, competing leagues. But I think as fans, we have more lacrosse on, which is, I think, a good thing in the long run.
Yes, for sure.
But with that, Mark, that wraps up our main questions. We're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll go into our 5 and 5 segment. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. Today I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Anchor. We've been using Anchor for the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast, and once it's published, they send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. They also connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast today, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, the fantasy footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today. All right, so welcome back. Now we're going to go into our 5 and 5 segment. I'll start off with the lacrosse questions, Mark. My first one I have is, what is a pre-game superstition or routine that you had when you were playing?
So the biggest thing I would do is it was all about the routine. So I would get to the building at the exact same time. I would go through the exact same. I would go out there with just helmet and gloves and shoot around a little bit, do a little bit of a dynamic, and then come in, listen to music, and then go out with the team. But between like what I ate that day and how I warmed up and when I got to the building, everything was right on the same schedule, same routine.
And then number 2, what has been your favorite venue to play at during your career?
I would say my favorite venue that I've ever played in was our home arena. I played 2 years in Philly. Back in the day, it was the First Union Center when I played there. I forget what it's called now, but that place, I loved playing in there.
Awesome. And number 3, what was your toughest matchup during your career? I mean, I'm sure there was a few, but who was one of the toughest guys to go up against?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a hard question. I generally drew a pretty nasty defender. Yep. From, Petro to a guy named Reed Jackson, who used to cover me. He played at Rutgers and then was my teammate on the 98 U.S. team. Kind of an unheralded guy, but Reed was great. And then I would say just probably the toughest matchup for me overall was probably Nicky Polanco. Mm-hmm. Just too big, too strong, too fast. I didn't have a lot of, anything I tried to use, he was kind of up for the challenge. I couldn't use my body against him. He was just too big and strong. He was so long and rangy that if I tried to use my quickness, he would cover that ground pretty quick. So he's one of the best ever, and I would say he's probably my toughest matchup.
Awesome. And then number 4, one of our listeners, Jack_S1, wants to know, what is your favorite drill for an attackman to practice?
I don't know. I try to tell young kids all the time, like, it's not about becoming a great shooter or a great passer or a great dodger. Like, it's really, you really got to have it all. I mean, if you want to be an elite player, you look at a Grant Ament or Michael Sowers, they literally do it all. I would say favorite overall drill would probably be shooting, because as an attackman, you're going to need to shoot, and the added benefit in addition to fundamentals is you're going to gain confidence as you shoot. Mm-hmm. So probably my favorite overall drill would be to just go out and shoot on the run.
And then number 5, who was a player or coach you kind of leaned on as, was kind of a mentor to you during your pro career?
Well, the coaching piece, and trying to think who that might be a tough one. I'll tell you probably the coach that was. I had a lot of good coaches. Probably mm-hmm. Tony Resch, who was my coach in Philly. Mm-hmm. The couple of years I played on the wings. We won that championship we talked about before in 2001. He was our coach. He was very well prepared, and he was all about one thing I thought was really cool, especially on a pro team. He was all about roles, and mm-hmm. he wanted the guys to know their roles so that, a guy who was a defender, you don't want him going to take 5 shots in a game, and a guy who's an offensive player, get off the floor and wait, play offense. So he was probably the best.
Yeah, no, that's great. And he's still doing great things, too, with the Archers as their D coordinator. They had the top defense in the PLL last season. So
he's been doing pro lacrosse forever. I mean, actually, I remember now he helped out with the Bayhawks. I think the championship we won in 2002, maybe. He helped out with the defense. So he's been in the pro leagues for years. He's tremendous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and coached the Barrage. Adams, obviously a big Philadelphia Barrage fan. Happy to see them back. He coached the Barrage, I believe, the 2 championships, right, Adam?
Yep.
Yeah, yep. And multiple U.S. teams, too. So.
But that wraps up our lacrosse questions. Adam, you want to take away the off-the-field questions?
Yep, absolutely. First one up for you. Where's your favorite spot to go when you're back on Long Island?
Favorite spot to go is down on the south shore of Long Island to the Robert Moses Beach. It's an ocean beach, again, on the south shore. It's probably like 40 minutes from where I grew up.
Number 2, what are some hobbies or activities you enjoy doing when it's not involved in lacrosse?
So since I'm not playing lacrosse anymore, people try to get me to play, but I had my fill. Not in any real leagues, but in like the summer stuff. I have become super, super into golf.
Okay.
And I love golf because, quite honestly, it's so hard and it's such a challenge and it takes such incredible focus. I know for most people they wouldn't understand that, but just listen to Tiger Woods talk. Like if you take your mind off one shot and you're trying to shoot a good score, that one time you lose focus, you may sink it in the water and it costs you and you make an 8 and your round's kind of in trouble. So I'm really into golf. That's my kind of primary hobby.
Awesome. Now that kind of leads into my next question. What's your favorite sport to watch that's not lacrosse? Is it golf right now, or is there another one you enjoy watching?
And that's a great question, and that kind of leads back to where we started with this. I grew up playing baseball, and I really loved playing baseball. And if they were counter seasonal with lacrosse, I would have played a lot of baseball. So I grew up going, not only playing baseball, but my dad used to take me and my brother to Yankee games all the time. So I am a huge Yankee fan, religious Yankee fan. There's, MLB plays 162 games. I tell people all the time, I usually am somehow tied into 150 games, whether I'm watching it, listening to it, following it on social media. I just love baseball. I love to watch it.
That's awesome. So I'm sure you were pretty happy with the Garrett Cole signing then.
I was ecstatic with the Garrett Cole signing, but then all of a sudden our top guy blows out his elbow in the first week of spring training. Or not the top guy, the second guy, Severino, and then we got all kinds of injuries, and then who knows if we're going to be playing baseball this year.
Yeah. I didn't want to bring that one part up.
Definitely a tough situation. I'm an Orioles fan, so I have a strong dislike for the Yankees. To be quite frank.
Being an Orioles fan right now, it's going to be it's probably going to be 5 years, and hopefully they can do what the Cubs did, which is stink so bad for so long that they can get 5 draft picks and save money, and then 5 years from now they're going to be really, really good. But it's going to be a tough couple of years.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we kind of joke. My main job is with the MLB Network and NHL Network, and we joke that, hey, now the Orioles, at least during all this, they probably won't have as bad a losing season as they probably could if we had a full season. So that's the one good thing about all this. But definitely hoping that sports do start up, and again, it's so much uncertainty right now. But that's that. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And kind of speaking of being quarantined a little bit right now, people are looking for a lot of outlets, whether it's podcasts, books, anything like that. What's a book on your bookshelf currently, or maybe a podcast that you'd recommend to a teammate or friend at the moment?
Go back and read To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay. I did that about 6 or 8 weeks ago, and I hadn't read it since 7th, 8th grade. It's it's not the fastest reading in the world, but it's pretty darn good. And what I'm recommending to as many people who will listen is just find something this is such a national tragedy, really, and just don't come out on the other side heavier or weaker, or just find something to latch onto, make yourself stronger, make yourself smarter, read more. Another thing me and my family are doing, we subscribe to Masterclass.
Okay.
And I don't know if you guys have heard about Masterclass, but that's really cool, and there's a lot of different classes. And so that would be the book I would say to go back and read if you're a little older, and just try to do something to make yourself come out on the other side of this in a stronger way.
That's awesome. And then the last of the off-the-field questions. We like to eat on this podcast, so we're always curious, what's your favorite meal, and do you prefer to dine out, take out, or cook at home?
So my favorite by far is dining out at steakhouses.
Okay.
I mean, I love the Ruth's Chris, the Morton's, the Capitol Grills, and my favorite meal at those places is just a standard New York strip.
Mm-hmm.
And all my buddies make fun of me. I get it with no butter because I can't stand when they drown it in butter, and no char.
Okay.
No char, so no blackening on it. So New York strip, no char, no butter. and I just love the atmosphere and a good steakhouse.
There we go.
Awesome. Are you a medium rare guy or
Medium. Yeah. Most really good steak connoisseurs want it as rare as possible, but not me. I'm just a medium guy.
There we go.
Well, that wraps up our 5 and 5 segment. Mark, this has been great. One piece of advice that one question we always like to end on is, what is some advice that you have for a young player looking to one day play lacrosse professionally?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you guys. It was a welcome. It's really fun to go down memory lane and talk about all this stuff.
Sure.
So thank you. And then advice is really, you just got to embrace the fundamentals. If you look at like any sport, if you look at a golfer, if you look at a Major League Baseball pitcher, if you look at a quarterback like Tom Brady, and you just look at the way they throw the ball or pitch the ball or swing the golf club, or Steph Curry or LeBron, the way they shoot, every elite player has flawless fundamentals. And the more you can embrace fundamentals and technique, every year you go by that you get bigger, stronger, faster, you're just going to keep getting better. Whereas, like, let's say you're 10, 12 years old and you're bigger than everybody and you're just barreling through people and you're not worrying about fundamentals at all. Every year that goes by, everyone's going to catch up to you. You're never going to get better. Mm-hmm. But if you're 8, 9, 10, 12 years old and you're focusing on fundamentals, every year you get bigger and stronger, you're just going to keep getting better. And I also tell, like, even the medium, like, ninth graders and stuff, like, you can score on high school players with that bad technique. But if you want to be elite, you want to play in the pro league or in college, it's going to be all about fundamentals. So learn the fundamentals, embrace the fundamentals, and just work tirelessly at it.
No, that's awesome. We appreciate that advice, and I think it's important, like you said, for young listeners to really take in and, hone in on. Mark, this has been great. We really appreciate you coming on the show. We appreciate you, too, what you're doing with Offensive Wizardry. People, listeners, definitely check that out. We just want to thank you and wish you best of luck.
Thanks again, guys. It was really enjoyable. I appreciate all, the research you did to get ready and stuff, so it was great. I enjoyed it.
Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code LACROSSE today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today.